public is invited to attend. As a show of courtesy and respect to each other, we ask that all mobile phones be turned off and that no flash photography be used during the meeting. For those wishing to address the board during our public comments portion of the board meeting, please note that we will accept speaker cards until 6:20 p.m. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the operation of the Duval County School District. Board members, I invite you to stand for the opening message given tonight by retired Pastor Ted Corley and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance being led tonight by Chase Leonard from Boy Scout Troop 837.
Let's pray together. Loving and gracious God, as we gather today at the meeting of the Duval County School Board, we ask that your presence and your power will be in our midst. For you are indeed the giver of all good gifts. And we thank you today for all of your blessings, for the successful outcomes of the challenges to the well-beings of Duval County Public Schools. We give thanks for the tenacity of this board and superintendent to move forward in the fight in the face of challenge. We ask your blessing, your guidance, and your courage on this school board, our superintendent, the district staff, school administrators, as well as the teachers and support members of every Duval County public school. We come today to thank you for Dr. Green, for her strength and her grace in the face of challenge and adversity, and this board who has stood with her in the face of this challenge. We ask that you bless them abundantly and that they will continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength for the Duval County Public Schools. Be with this board in their deliberation. Help them to be wise in the decisions that they make for the good of all who have placed their trust and their confidence in their leadership. Lord, remind them tonight that they were chosen to lead the Duval County Public Schools not only by the vote of the people, but by the choice of the living God. I pray that you will give them insight to lead with integrity so that their decisions may reflect what is right and good for every student in Duval County Public Schools. Lord, I ask that you would keep them from short-sightedness and pettiness. I pray that you would bless every family with students in Duval County Public Schools. I thank you for the men and women who protect our students, for those who run in instead of running out. We ask for safety and health of every student in Duval County Public Schools. Lord, I ask that you would help this board make decisions that are good for every student, every leader, every teacher in Duval County Public Schools, and that you would always guard them from blind self-interest. Dear Lord, grant them the humility to always seek your will in all that they do and say. We declare that all glory for every success and accomplishment of Duval County Public Schools will go to you, loving God, now and always. Through Jesus Christ, I pray this prayer tonight. Amen.
I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we will have our school presentation from District 2, Parkwood Heights Elementary, Principal Ashton Parks.
Excuse me.
District 1.
That's District 1, not 2.
Are you sure about that? District 1, I'm sorry.
Thank
you.
Well, good evening. I'm Ashton Price, proud principal at Parkwood Heights Elementary, and I would like to start by thanking Superintendent Dr. Diana Green for allowing me to serve my community in the capacity of principal. I would also like to thank Board Member Grimes for selecting Parkwood for this wonderful opportunity. When I started discussions about this wonderful opportunity with my favorite thought partner, my wife, she thought that it would be a good idea for our students to go ahead and tell you what they enjoyed most about Parkwood. So I engaged my morning show crew, and under the direction of Ms. Marisol Torres, second grade teacher, they produced a short video for your viewing pleasure this evening. Here with me, I have two members of the morning show crew, Cordell Edward and Ava Sullivan, and we also have our newly crowned Miss Parkwood Heights, Miss Malexi Martinez. Please enjoy the video.
Good evening. Welcome to a special evening edition of the Parkwoods BAWS Morning News Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ava. Today we are going to take you on an adventure to find what makes Parkwood special.
First stops the Panther Den. This is where all Panthers go to be rewarded. Sometimes it's for something academic, sometimes it's for behavior, or simply when we are caught being good. Welcome to the Panther Den. This is the reward wheel where students can spin and win prizes. Right here is Jacob Arnold. He is going to spin the wheel to win a prize.
Your choice!
Signing out from the Panthers Den, this is Cordell Edwards.
We recently crowned Miss Parkwood for next year. Let's see what she and the first runner-up had to say about our school.
One of the things that I like most about Parkwood is that I can work with different people, make friends, and I can help others accomplish goals. I love Parkwood Heights because I've been here so long, since kindergarten, and the teachers are like family to me.
After school is always fun at Parkwood. Let's visit Girls Inc. and CAP's Drumline. I'm Ashley and I'm in another Girls Inc. group. Today we have
Kabuo
and
Shania.
today I'm going to be asking them what they like most about being in Girls Inc.
I like the most about Girls Inc. because it's a place where all girls come together to be a true lady. I like Girls Inc. because when we're struggling on something in class, we work on it in Girls Inc. so it won't be a struggle anymore.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm George, and welcome to Drumline.
3, 4.
Can you tell us something about the Princess Corner?
Absolutely, and welcome to my positively outstanding Princess Corner. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, boys and girls are able to participate in Motivational Monday, Working Wednesday, and Fitness Friday. During each of those times, they can earn red tickets for their outstanding participation, and on those days, we pull tickets for boys and girls to go to our Panther Den.
Thank you, Miss Sapp.
You're welcome.
Check out our Positively Outstanding Parents. Our Positively Outstanding Parents have completed their volunteer registration and are always willing to help out with anything at the school.
Check out our campus mural that was created in the summer of 2016 by the members of Impact Church to inspire and motivate us.
Reporting from Parkwood Heights Elementary, this is Cordell Edwards from the WPAWS Morning News Show. Remember, make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. Signing off.
The last portion of that video is an excerpt from our Fitness Friday, where we get the students moving and sometimes grooving to promote a healthy lifestyle before school starts. Thank you.
Ms. Grimes, would you like to comment for this District 1 school?
District 1. Thank you, Mr. Price, for the presentation. Actually, I should be thanking all of you. Y'all did a great job. How long did it take you to do it? Who knows?
About 4 days.
Okay, good. That's pretty good. I feel like Parkwood is a jewel that a lot of people haven't known that it's even been in our school district, but it is a wonderful school, and obviously y'all are learning and playing and having fun, and that is part of what we do at school.
Absolutely. Make learning fun. Make learning fun.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call on Dr. Diana Green and Board Member Sheriff Grimes to make the following presentations.
Good evening. Simply put, they're among the best of the best. Tonight, we begin by celebrating 16 Duval schools being recognized as some of the top magnet schools in the country. They are Johnny Ford English and Spanish Montessori, La Villa School of the Arts, Paxson School for Advanced Studies, Spring Park Elementary School, Stanton College Preparatory, and Mayport Coastal Sciences Middle School. These honors come thanks to Magnet Schools of America, and they're based upon the highest standards of excellence. This year, Johnny Ford, La Villa, Paxson, Spring Park, and Stanton are all recipients of the School of Distinction Merit Award. To earn this award, each school went through an in-depth application process and was evaluated on criteria ranging from academic standards to curriculum. We're also proud to share that Mayport Middle has been designated as a nationally certified magnet school. This also involves an in-depth evaluation and highlights everything from instructional systems to community involvement. Bottom line, these schools have truly set themselves apart on a national level, and we are thrilled to see their hard work paying off. Here with us tonight are Johnny Ford Principal Tina Bennett, La Villa Principal Leanna Knight, and Assistant Principal Kevin Brown, Paxson Principal Royce Turner, Spring Park Principal Davina Parker, and IB Coordinator Griffin Lyon, Stanton Principal Majova, and Mayport Middle Principal Chris Cook. Finally, joining us from the School Choice Office are Supervisor Dr. Barbara Sistrunk and Specialist Jennifer Lacella Marcellus. Please help us congratulate these 6 magnet schools for this outstanding achievement. Let's give them another round of applause. Now, from book drives to little libraries and to kindness with a cup of joe, we now wish to recognize 3 schools that have gone above and beyond in community involvement. In this inaugural year, winners of the 5-Star School Award are amongst the first awardees of the district's Engage Award. And tonight, we are recognizing Fishware Elementary, Jacksonville Beach Elementary, and Sable Palm Elementary. All 3 are recipients of the 2018-2019 Engage Award, created by the district's Department of Family and Community Engagement. This award aims to recognize schools that have demonstrated exemplary community involvement in 6 specific categories: community partnerships, family involvement, volunteerism, student community service, and school advisory councils. In addition to providing documentation in each of these areas, schools also had to have a minimum grade of a C to apply. Just to give you an idea how these schools are impacting their communities, Fishware Elementary students hosted a school supplies drive and book drive to support elementary students in the Blountstown, Florida area following the impact of Hurricane Michael. Jacksonville Beach Elementary students created a little library where people from the community can come to get free books to read. This library is stocked with books donated by the Jacksonville Beach Elementary community. Finally, Sable Palm Elementary students spread kindness to their community on World Kindness Day by creating and handing out a decorative coffee sleeve with positive affirmations to patrons of their local Starbucks. Tonight, we're joined by representatives of each of these schools. We're also joined by members of the Department of Family and Community Engagement, Executive Director Tia Leathers, and Director of Partnerships and Community Outreach Brandon Mack. Please help us congratulate Fishware, Jacksonville Beach, and Sable Palm Elementary Schools for earning the 2018-2019 Engage Award. You can say this next group of students brings new meaning to the term world class. We're now celebrating Baldwin Middle Senior High School's varsity cheer team for earning 2 major titles, world champions and national champions. The Baldwin cheer team is no stranger to winning. In fact, as of this year, they are 4-time back-to-back Florida High School Athletic Association state champions. But 2020 marks the first time that this team not only placed at the national level, but they've also competed in and placed at the world level. The national competition took place February 8th at the ESPN Wide World of Sports in Orlando. There, Baldwin became champions in the large non-tumbling category. The world competition took place the very next day, with Baldwin competing against the teams from across the globe. In the end, they walked away as champions in the large non-tumbling category. And in case you were wondering, the cheer team is the first Baldwin team to ever win a national title and a world title. This came with a lot of hard work and dedication. Here tonight are team coaches Sue Mullis and Amanda Dunnington, as well as activities director Kenlyn Kirk and principal Denise Hall. And of course, we're also joined by the 2020 champions right there themselves. And please join us in congratulating Baldwin's varsity cheer team for being named world and national champions.
Charlotte, you want to go ahead and take a picture with them? Can we hear a cheer first?
After a picture?
Give them one more applause.
Thank you, ladies.
It was a home run for thousands of Duval School students who participated. Oh, you all are free to go. Yes. Feel free to cheer on the way if you want to. It was a home run for thousands of Duval School students who participated in a first-of-its-kind baseball game showcasing Jacksonville's rich African-American history. We're speaking of the High School Heritage Classic, an opportunity that wouldn't have been possible without the vision of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. The Jumbo Shrimp hosted the game between William M. Raines and John Ribault High Schools last month in celebration of the 100-year anniversary of the Negro League. You can see some photos from the Classic in the monitors. Close to 3,000 students from local elementary, middle, and high schools packed the stands as the two baseball teams competed for the A. Philip Randolph Cup. Throughout the game, students were exposed to different aspects of baseball and African American history. This included trivia, facts about historical figures, and the replica Jacksonville Red Caps uniforms worn by students on both teams. Even though only one team could go home with the trophy, the Raines Vikings, both teams went home with commemorative Negro League uniforms as a reminder of the role they played in this celebration of African American history. We want to thank the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp for facilitating this educational experience for our students and for partnering with the district throughout the year on a variety of other initiatives. This includes other high school baseball games, the teacher pep rally, family engagement events, and the Jackson 5 Sports Management Internship Program. Joining us once more from the Department of Family and Community Engagement are Tia Leathers and Brandon Mack. And here with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp are Andrea Williams, Director of Community Relations, and Harold Craw, the Executive Vice President and General Manager, who is also the only African American General Manager of the 160 minor league baseball teams. Also the only African American to be awarded Executive of the Year by the Southern League and the creator of the concept for the High School Heritage Classic. Tonight, Dr. Green is presenting the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp with her Superintendent Coin of Excellence and would like to share a few words.
Oh, yeah, it's not real gold, but we'd like to present this Coin of Excellence, the Superintendent's Coin of Excellence, because the gesture that the Jumbo Shrimp made will impact these young men's lives for a long time. They'll be telling their grandchildren how they played in front of thousands of people, and though it was students, it still was a wonderful day. I was there. It was just so exciting, and I know they'll be looking forward to years to come.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With one word, he was named the best speller in the district. He's 8th grade Alfred DuPont Middle School student Julius Graham, and we now wish to recognize him as our district spelling bee champion. Graham clinched the victory in late January when he went head-to-head against the district's top spellers in over 15 rounds of competition. In the end, it was the word dubiously that resulted in Graham earning the title and trophy. But perhaps what's even more impressive about Graham's win is what he overcame to get here. You see, Graham was born with Erb's palsy, which meant it was hard for him to walk when he was younger. But thanks to his faith, family, and a lot of fight, Graham pressed on and overcame. Today, he's not only a strong speller, but he's also a standout student and leader who credits a lot of his success to the programs and staff at DuPont Middle. Tonight, Graham is joined by DuPont Principal Marilyn Barnwell. In light of his successes, Dr. Green is presenting Graham with the Superintendent's Coin of Excellence. And she will now give some remarks.
Every time it's said, they look at it like it's gold, but hey, if that's what it takes. I am so excited to present the Superintendent's Coin of Excellence to you, Julius. And I was there when you spelled that last word, and I was so proud, not just of you, but of all the students, and how gracious you were as a district spelling bee winner. So we wish you the best when you, is it Orlando? Or what's your next competition? Okay, we went to the next one. Well, I know you did your best, so thank you. Congratulations.
Please help us congratulate Julius Graham as our Duval County Public Schools Spelling Bee champion.
Congratulations.
To many, she's known as a dedicated paraprofessional, but as of last month, she gained another important title, Hero. For our final presentation, we're honoring Alden Road Exceptional Student Center's Taylor Bird for her heroic actions in saving a student's life. Bird says it all began in the school cafeteria during lunch when she heard an alert that someone was choking. Bird says she immediately went into response mode. She rushed to the student and began administering the Heimlich maneuver until the foot item was dislodged. When we asked Bird about her ability to respond so quickly, she said this: basically, in the fight or flight, I went fight. While she appreciates being called a hero, she believes she was simply at the right place at the right time and with the right training. Bird tells us she learned the Heimlich in her teens and that this is actually the second time she's had to administer it. By the way, this is Bird's first year at Alden Road, and it's clear she's made quite the impression. Here with Bird this evening are Alden Road Exceptional Student Center Principal Joseph Blitch and Assistant Principal Donna Bain. Tonight, Dr. Green is honoring Bird with a coin of excellence and would like to share a few words.
Taylor, we are so proud of your actions, and the student is also very grateful. And I want to present to you the superintendent's coin of excellence for a job well done, and thank you so much for what you did and what we know that you will continue to do. Thank you.
This concludes this evening's presentations, and let's just give everyone a quick round of applause.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. The approval of the March 3rd, 2020 agenda, that the Duval County School Board approve the March 3rd, 2020 agenda as submitted on February the 25th, 2020 with the following changes. Approval of minutes, item amended. Emergency agenda items, approval of an amendment of the agreement with Curriculum Associates, Inc. for educational and professional development, item added, attachment added. Emergency agenda items, approval of an amendment of the agreement with Educational Development Associates, Inc. for professional development, item added. I ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Hershey, second by Vice Chair Anderson. Any discussion? Not, a call for your vote.
My thing went off when I was down there, so.
Hold up.
My little thing didn't come up.
Chairman Jones, we will need to take a hand vote.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. 7. Thank you. Those opposed, seeing none, item passes 7-0. Chairman's report will be brief today, but I did want to focus on the stipulation agreement that this board approved at our February 24th board meeting after our shade meeting by a vote of 5-0. The stipulation agreement was introduced the following day at the February 25th City Council meeting. The public hearing on this item will be held on Tuesday, a week from today, March the 10th at 5 o'clock p.m. at City Hall. The stipulation agreement is simply an agreement that provided the City Council approves the referendum put on the ballot for November of 2020, that we would then drop the lawsuit. We're still in litigation, and I was informed by our legal staff that we're not obligated, nor should we answer any questions regarding the stipulation agreement or the referendum. If you choose to attend the City Council meeting or any of the committee meetings, please keep in mind that that's not our role to address any concerns that they may have. That's their staff responsibility. And I just want to remind us of that. And with that, that concludes my report. Dr. Green?
Thank you. Chairman Jones, I'd like to invite up Elizabeth Terraso. She is the Director of Health Services. Between Elizabeth and myself, we are going to discuss with the board all the procedures, all of the guidelines we have put in place as it relates to the coronavirus. So Elizabeth, because I have the clicker, if you stand there and just nod your head and I'll know to click to the next. Right.
Good evening. I'm here today to go ahead and discuss the background of COVID-19, what is happening locally, what preventative measures can be done, and monitoring that is currently in place. Coronaviruses is the name of a large family of viruses that cause respiratory illnesses such as the common cold. The illness caused by the new coronavirus is called COVID-19 and was first identified during an investigation in an outbreak in Wuhan, China. COVID-19 is spread by coming in contact with someone with the virus who is sneezing and or coughing. It is also spread by contact with contaminated hands or objects. Symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. These symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. If you develop symptoms, contact your healthcare professional before you go into their office. The first case of COVID-19 in the U.S. was reported on January 21st. According to the most updated information on the CDC website, there are a total of 60 cases currently in the United States. 12 states are currently reporting active cases, and Georgia and New Hampshire are the most recently added states to the list. There are no confirmed cases in Duval County. There are 2 cases confirmed in the state of Florida, and there is a report indicating that a 3rd case has tested positive by a public health lab and is pending confirmatory testing at the Centers for Disease Control. Despite these 3 cases in Florida, the current risk for infection remains low for the general public. Some ways to prevent the spread of illness are to stay home when sick, cover your cough and sneezes, avoid contact with sick people, avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands.
Bless you.
If washing your hands, please do so for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water is not available, you can use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol, and objects and surfaces that are frequently touched should be cleaned and disinfected. The district continues to work in collaboration with the Florida Department of Health's epidemiology program regarding potential outbreaks and communicable diseases. The School Health Services Manual outlines the procedure for reporting and controlling infectious diseases suspected or detected within the school community. Faculty and staff will continue to adhere to the sick student policy that is also written in the manual.
So I'm going to take it from this point. Some management decisions that have been made. We are talking about custodial efforts, school attendance, student enrollment procedures, travel restrictions, and communication efforts. Custodial efforts. We have already taken great strides to order bulk hand sanitizers. They've been ordered. We've been told that we should receive a new shipment tomorrow. Although many schools have that in the front office, our goal is to try to make that available at every, what we would call stop point, or a point in a school where large number of individuals may be gathered. If parents would like to provide personal supply for student or classroom use, if desired, or if they are able to contribute, schools are advised to ensure that they keep an adequate supply of stock, making sure that they have soap, paper towels for student and employee use. We are providing the schools masks. However, from guidance from the Department of Health, the mask should be used for only students with symptoms of the illness, not just the general population. We also are ensuring that we have masks for our health professionals that are in our schools. We will be enhancing our cleaning and sanitation at all of our schools. Starting tomorrow, we will start deep cleaning all schools between March 4th through March 15th. As you know, next week we will be on spring break. We will use Center of Biocide Chemistry's approved viral disinfectants. There is a list that tells you what disinfectants are most prudent to use, and all of ours will be coming from that list. Once we've finished that deep cleaning between March 4th through March 15th, we will leave cleaning products remaining at the school for continued use. Employee and student attendance. We are encouraging medically fragile students with documented immune deficiencies and other students with medical documentation to recommend to refrain from attending school will be fully accommodated with a home health plan. Each home health plan will be individualized. We've encouraged families to contact their child's school for information regarding development of that home health plan. For all other students, the normal attendance policy remains in effect. At this time, there is no recommendations that have been made to close schools, and by the way, it is the Department of Health that makes that recommendation if we are to close schools or cancel public events. However, students that may have been in travel, or their family members may have been traveling, we will be sending home a letter tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Thursday, because as you know, over spring break, we may have families traveling internationally, and that letter will go home explaining if you travel to any of the countries that are listed, and we put the link, that could change every day, the link of those countries listed. We are asking them to voluntarily self-isolate. Students that are in self-isolation will be provided work from the school for a home option. We have a number of options, and all the schools know what options to offer parents, whether it is digital or we would mail their work to them through postal service. Employees in self-isolation will follow appropriate board policies regarding sick leave use. Student enrollment and home health plan. Students new to the district, or students returning from travel from a high-risk area, we will require notification for enrollment of students new to the district. So if they are coming from one of those countries and they're coming into the district, we are asking parents to notify their child's school by phone. Staff from the District Parent Resource Center will support families with enrollment after consultation with staff from the district's health department. So Elizabeth has been very busy over the last couple of weeks. We are recommending anytime our schools have a question or they may not know the answer, to call Elizabeth's office first, and then Elizabeth's office will have conversation with the district's health department, Florida Department of Health.
Students in self-isolation will be provided work-from-home options that include access to the district online platforms for core content instruction, whether that is iReady or Achieve, technical support as needed, laptops, air cards at no cost to the student, we will provide that, and appropriate time to complete and submit academic assignments without penalty. Again, that is for any student that is that has gone into self-isolation, their family is in self-isolation, and they've traveled from those high-risk areas. Travel-related restrictions, student and employees, academic field trips and work-related travel. Travel to high-risk areas have been canceled. I'm not sure we had any, but if we did, those trips have been canceled. Travel is permissible if it's in county and the event has less than 1,000 participants. You say, well, what made you choose 1,000? We are looking at other countries and other areas of that enrollment number. 1,000 seems to be the number that has continued to being used, and so we are using anything that has 1,000 participants or more. We would question those field trips. In-state and out-of-state, it's on a case-by-case review. It may be permissible under considerations that include whether travel costs are refundable. We have a number of trips already scheduled. Payment has been made, and many times it's coming back, this is non-refundable. And it's because they are not traveling to an area that has been considered a high-risk area. So we are permitting those travel plans to move forward. In areas that students or employees may feel uncomfortable, even though they are scheduled to go, we are giving them permission that if you don't feel comfortable going, you can ask to be excused, and we will just have to deal with whether we can refund money if it's for a student, if it's an employee, if the cost is non-refundable. We will work with that department. All travel that hasn't been paid for must be either mission essential or emergency situation. Any travel under consideration, we look at mode of transportation. Is it by air, bus, or car? Students and our employees who are not, as I just stated, who are not comfortable with travel will be excused from travel plans, and every effort made to excuse them from the financial penalty. I know that we have a number of student group travel, Washington, D.C., safety patrols. You've been paying on that since August. And more than likely, we're at a point where it would be a challenge to refund those dollars. However, they are traveling by bus. We have JSO in many instances, and we are looking to them, but those trips currently today are still scheduled. Trips that we have concerns are for trips that are going to like amusement parks, where we know there are more than 1,000 people there, and we have much less control of what they touch and, you know, of supporting our students. So right now, if those trips have not been paid for, they are, we are indicating they are canceled at this point. We do have one trip that we still are waiting for guidance. We have a superintendent's phone conference tomorrow, and that is Grad Bash. That is a huge event at the end of the year for our seniors, and we are going to talk to other superintendents, because right now it is considered, they are not considering canceling that event. Ongoing communications. We are sending information home either through automated calls, backpack flyers. We have it on our Facebook page. We have it on our district app. We have it on our district website. I think that you see a picture of the banner that's on the district website. So as the banners move through, they can just click for read more, and it takes them directly to the page with more information. We are continuing to collaborate with our partners, the City of Jacksonville, Florida Department of Health, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Florida Department of Education. As I stated, tomorrow all superintendents will be on a phone conference with the governor related to what are we doing with our procedures, what are we doing to support our schools and our families.
So we ask everyone to continue to monitor the website. As information changes, we will update our website, we'll update our district app. For our students, again, we will continue to do automated calls when appropriate, backpack flyers, and update our Facebook page and district app as each day we get new information. So at this time, I'd be more than happy, Elizabeth or I would be more than happy to entertain, or if that is permissible from the board chair, any questions from the board.
Any questions from board members? Seeing none? Yeah. Thank you for being proactive and getting ahead of this as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to thank Elizabeth. She has been in contact with the Department of Health every day. We have weekly meetings. She attends the weekly meetings. Every time the city of Jacksonville calls a meeting, we have Mr. Suarez, Director Edwards attending those meetings as well. So we have also informed the mayor and the mayor's office, the city council, our state and local representatives for Jacksonville of what we're doing. And I also need to thank Dr. Pierce. He has been cranking out letters and information. Our goal is to make sure our community knows the facts and has the information as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Thank you, your staff members, for the work that you've done, and it's much appreciated, and the community appreciates it too. Public comments. We're now on the public comment portion of our agenda. Those wishing to address the board must fill out a blue speaker's card. The school board welcomes your comments on matters that are before the board for consideration. It is not the board's intent to respond this evening, but to use the input in our deliberations. To give everyone appropriate respect and courtesy, we ask the audience to refrain from audible comments or applause. When you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. When the green light in front of me starts blinking, you will have a minute remaining. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds remaining. When it turns red and the buzzer sounds, your time will be up. If your concerns exceed that time, you may present written comments to the board. You are asked to refrain from references to specific individuals and to follow expectations for civil discourse. Please remember that speaker cards were only accepted up until 6:20 p.m. Thank you for taking your time to address the board. Vice Chair Anderson.
Thank you. The first speaker is Jacqueline Atkins-Neely, and after that we'll have Miss Lynn Mooney, if you can be ready to step up to the microphone.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Jacqueline Atkins-Neely, and I come because as a speaker for the community of District 4, the Mary McLeod Bethune former elementary school. It's also known as the Brown Dump. We would like to know what's going on, and I'm interested in the sale of that building. I attended Mary McLeod Bethune and graduated from Mary McLeod Bethune, and I was educated on the north side, and so I'm very familiar with the north side area. Also, the La Villa area. So could you please give me some information on the status of it and if I can purchase it?
Well, we're here to hear comments from the public. We certainly can have someone to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Lynn Mooney. Followed by Frank DeLong.
Good evening. My question was already answered with the hand sanitizer, because I know all stores are sold out, so we cannot provide our children to bring any to the schools but it's already been answered. Thank you so much for being on top of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, I believe it's DeLong, followed by Ronald Wansley.
Good evening, Dr. Green, the members of the board. Tonight I'd like to express concern of several items which affect maintenance personnel. Recently, the opportunity to donate blood via the Blood Mobile was canceled. We were told it was canceled by upper management due to the lack of production from its employees who participated. We have numerous individuals who are civic-minded, and this is a way for them to contribute to the community. One of our workers has donated over 15 gallons of blood over the last 30 years. That's a lot of lives saved and should be continued as it has in the past. With blood drive shortages happening a lot, we can make a difference. Secondly, I'd like to enlist your support for the changing perception of our maintenance personnel. For whatever reason, when some teachers and administrators see maintenance blue shirts, they immediately allow a bias to take them over. Regardless of the amount of education a person has, we all contribute to the betterment of our schools. For example, I have a principal who changed the rear doors of the schools and have gates blocking the exits when school is in. When I spoke to her about this huge safety issue, this imposes violating the National Electric Code, National Fire Protection Code, the Florida Department of Education Code. She acted I had no idea what I was talking about and proceeds to continue in their own ways. There are some who daily put each other and our students at great risk. With this various potential of electrical issues or safety issues, you're probably thinking report it to your supervisor. Unfortunately, our supervisors are afraid to stand up to them. Recently, upper management objected to letting us stop work if there was a possibility of death or imminent danger to staff without calling and getting a supervisor's permission to do so. As a licensed electrician, I'm aware of OSHA regulations that would not put anyone in danger or go against my training certificates regardless of what I'm told. We must be able to use common sense in day-to-day dealings. Please help us begin the change of perception of maintenance personnel. Respect for each other is something that we teach our students, but we should also strive for it. Maintenance fixes issues every day at our schools and the tools and assets we're given, but we're also the first one in the lines of defense to prevent accidents and injuries using our training to spot problems before they occur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronald Wansley, followed by Jabria Ali.
Ask someone to pass these out before I start mine. Thank you. My name's Ronald Wansley. I'm a driver for the GSA 5 area of the schools, and we've had an ongoing problem that has been itching our drivers tremendously. It goes to the conduct of students that's on the buses, and then it also goes to the changes to the problems of, how would you say, problems of the school or problems with the students is that when the drivers are transporting, they're up against a lot of pressure on the road, the highways, the morning drives, and trying to make deadlines to get those students. Sometimes they have 2 or 3 different schools that they have to service, and when children start misbehaving on the buses, it's very difficult for us to do. We have to pull over to the side, get the kids calmed down, and we don't have any monitors that are on the buses. My proposal is to try to attempt to encourage y'all to get together and try to come and put monitors on these buses, elementary and middle school, because there's a lot of things that I've outlined it in the papers there to go forward with this, because I mean I can sit here and read all of the stuff in here, but the main goal is to try to get monitors on the bus, because children jump up and down and running up and down the aisles. They're running. The bus has to stop and get the children going. Sometimes it takes 15, 20 minutes. Dispatchers are really at wit's end when they're talking. You hear them over the radio, and it's like a distress call coming out. Well, the minute they get a that says that you have to, by the driver's request, they go and call 911. Well, according to the police officers, and I used to work for them, it's a low priority call. So you got another hour waiting on an officer to come to help them to get the kids under control, or take someone off the bus and they have to be disciplined, or call the parents, or however the procedure is at the time. I've never encountered that myself, but hopefully I won't ever have to. But we need monitors on these buses, elementary and middle school both, because they go down the road a lot of times and people call our dispatchers, and they probably call the coordinators down there, the coordinators here at the school board, and they're saying, we got kids with windows down, and they hanging out the window, and they throwing trash out. So I hope that y'all can do a little studying on it, because it's really important to drivers. It's very unsafe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The famous TEDx speaker, Jabria Ali.
I am Jabria Ali, a Paxton School for Advanced Studies ambassador and 12th grade representative. I would like to address Dr. Green and the board on a matter that sits dear to my heart. I believe that in our school communities, we need a district youth advisory council. To hear from the youth is always important, but to hear from the youth that populate our schools is imperative. Often administrators and teachers speak for us without speaking to us. I want to change that narrative and allow student representatives to speak for their peers on a level that will allow for our amazing board members to hear us and see us. I believe that implementing this council will only better the dialogue between students and administration. In a world where communication is no longer the priority, we, the students, need to know that our county, in our district, in our school, our voices are a priority. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jabril. Thank you.
And our last speaker this evening, Arquan Joseph.
That's very smart.
Greetings and humble salutations to the great board. I made a speaking promise to the vice chairman, and I'm here, and I'm going to give my little briefing. Today we live in a society where it seems as though peace has been stricken out, hope mustered away, justice deemed an array, and our society's moral judgment has been placed on trial. More than ever, our society is faced with the need of young leaders all over Jacksonville. We have young people with cultural backgrounds and prestigious accolades. They comprise talents, gifts that can bring about change. As you see, and my colleague Jabria said, we have a lot of, as she said it, we attended the TED Talk today, and there were a lot of students who talked about various issues concerning students, front-face students. We need an advisory council, not only we don't need just a council for just one school, but all over the district. Because believe it or not, one problem can be faced all over our schools. So if we can do something that comprises not only student ambassadors, like I serve as a senior class vice president, we can have different leaders who are in the schools every day. Teachers can speak for us, administrators can speak for us, but they can only go to an extent. We need youth that are able to speak from a youth perspective, speak on behalf of the youth because they are youth. So I know that the district has JAGs, and I believe we're sitting right in front they're sitting behind us. But if we can kind of expand that advisory council and establish an advisory council where youth can advise the district on various issues concerning schools, concerning not only the schools, but mental health of our children just abroad, I would like for the district to take that in consideration and just think about it. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. That's all, the end of our speakers for this evening.
All right, thank you. Are there any parent organizations who wish to address the board? Michael Hawk, District Advisory Council Chairperson, Teresa Rogers, PTA. How you doing, Teresa?
Good evening, Chairperson Jones, school board members, and Dr. Green. I'm Teresa Rogers, President of the Duval County Council of PTAs and PTSAs, reporting on behalf of DCC PTA. As one of the initiatives from our Mental Health Special Committee, we will be hosting a mental health workshop on April 4th at Wolfson High School from 9 to 12. Admission is free and light refreshments will be served. Another new initiative this year has been the creation of a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. That committee is just now getting off the ground, and we're looking forward to providing training to our PTAs to help them to better engage with members of all backgrounds. Every year, DCC PTA offers $500 scholarships to our graduating seniors. The deadline for applications this year is March 31st, and we are happy to share that this year we're going to be able to give 6 of those scholarships out. We're also hosting on March 20th at Julia Landon a celebration of all of the winners of our county-wide Reflections Art program. We also just received news from Florida PTA that many of our county winners went on to win at the state level as well, and those winners will be honored in Orlando this summer. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Vasco Eagle, Title I Parent Advisory Chairperson. Aaron Hutchison, Exceptional Student Education Advisory Committee Chairperson. Any of those persons here? Seeing none. Our JAGS representative from Jeremiah Bell from Ribault High School. Is Jeremiah here?
To the Honorable Chairman Jones and the Honorable Board members and Superintendent Diana Green, good evening. My name is Jeremiah Bell, and I'm a junior at John Ribault Senior High School. And more importantly, a member of the esteemed Jacksonville Association of Governing Students, also known as JAGS. To begin, I would like to thank you on behalf of JAGS for allowing us to reestablish ourselves, formulate solutions, and express ourselves in a structured setting. We held our first meeting Wednesday, February 26th, and it was successful. Hearing Officer Brian Copeland allowed us to voice our concerns with the Student Code of Conduct. He took the time out to get our input on possible changes as well as some of the current policies and procedures, such as restorative justice. Also, Officer Copeland was also very informative of the tenets and descriptions in the code. We look forward to providing additional input in the near future. Following our discussion with Officer Copeland, we held an open forum to state other issues that concern us. One of the main areas was Wellness Wednesday, and we know there are state mandated lessons. However, we at JAGS would like to research and provide insight on how to make them more impactful and more engaging for everyone. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 25th, and Director Heather Alberton will be our guest speaker. Consequently, we are looking forward to engaging in healthy discussion with district leadership at this time. The dialogue during the meeting was inclusive and honest. We listened to one another and discussed the positive initiatives and challenges at our individual schools. Moving forward, we desire to continue collaboration with district leadership to discuss communication with students in general. JAGS would like to thank you all for ensuring student voice is a priority. We will work for the remainder of the school year and continue throughout the summer to work collaboratively with you to enact positive change. We cherish and appreciate this opportunity and will work expeditiously to fulfill our commitment to working together for the betterment of the school district. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have a quick question.
Okay, question, sir?
Really quickly, you said you were meeting again on March 25th, but do you have a time or location for that meeting?
No, ma'am, the time is TBD.
Okay, great. Can we be informed of that? When you find that out, can someone let us know?
From Mr. Simmons?
Mr. Copeland, Mr. Simmons?
Mr. Simmons will make sure we email you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Now we will hear from employee organizations who wish to address the board. Terry Brady, President DTU. Elton Brown, President ASME. Jason Geiger, President JSA. Ronnie Burris, Business Manager at Liona, Chris Stovall, President IBEW, and Steve Zona, President FOP.
Good evening, folks. Madam Superintendent, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I don't have any prepared remarks tonight. I wanted to come real quick and talk about I know I've bugged you guys quite often about wanting to get our apprenticeship program into Duval County schools, and I'm proud to say that starting in the fall, we will be at A. Philip Randolph. So, I mean, I know tonight I've got my oak leaf shirt on because they beat y'all to the punch, but I'm proud to say this will make 4 counties in Northeast Florida that we have our program in. I'm looking forward to helping train young men and women into the electrical trade. On that, I would like to make sure that we, in light of some comments that were made earlier, that we keep in mind that the building trades are a very good way for young folks to make a living. Not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody wants to end up with college debt. And, you know, I would encourage everyone to take a good hard look at apprenticeship programs in the building trades. It's a great way to get a good start on life. And with, you know, these young people that will be coming through our program, you know, by the time they're 5-year program, by the time they're 23, I do some math there, you know, they could be looking at a, you know, $70,000 career with no student debt. So, last, I just want to, I do this every year whenever we see the results of the Council of Great City Schools. Our men and women in the maintenance and consolidated services division, as usual, they're always killing it. They're doing a great job. They're making us look good on the national level. You know, they're my people. And I want to come out and make sure that somebody remembers to thank them for the great work they're doing, the great way that they're representing our school district. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stovall. Thank you for being here. The birthday lady, Terry Brady, happy birthday.
How old are you?
TMI.
Too much.
Good evening. First of all, before I get started, I would like to state that maybe we should get some of our teachers to join the apprenticeship program for $70,000. No, just saying. Anyway, just saying. I come before you tonight very short because I want to give an update. At the last meeting, we had some concerns over some projects we were doing. And Mr. Chairman, you state we can't say names, but I have to. I have to give a public shout out to our superintendent. That's just a title, not a name. See, I'm trying to abide by the rules, kind of. We had a meeting with our representatives of our Pride units from Duval County. It was not the whole group. It was just a representative group from every single one of the sites. We had paraprofessionals, behavioral interventionists. We had mental health trainers. We had a social worker. We had teachers. And our superintendent sat there for an hour and 43 minutes taking notes and truly engaged and listening to these representatives. This is a tough program, but it's needed for our children, and it's needed for the families. And when we got through the meeting, they could not believe that a superintendent of our district sat and listened to them for that long and took pages of notes and truly cared enough to be there that afternoon. Madam Superintendent, through the chair, I have to thank you so much. That's about valuing what our men and women do every day, no matter what their status is. And it's also valuing the commitment and the physical sacrifices and the personal sacrifices that they're making every day to meet the needs of these students and all of our students. So through the chair, thank you, ma'am, very much. And now we just got to see action to make sure that we put things in motion, and I'm sure we will. We still have our behavioral support group that wants to meet, and we also need to continue to address the IEP and the focus concerns. I know there have been a couple of changes since the last week we're here, but I wanted to make sure that I brought that up because that's still pending. Also, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we have one more week left of the legislative session. And Lord have mercy, things happen today. The education train was put forth last night and printed.
There are 9 to 12 different new bills or old bills that have been merged into a train. And in this train, there is 2 good things for us. The rest are things that are not so good for us. The things that concern me in this bill overall, and I'm publicly proud to talk about it, is that it just creates additional laws, if it passes, which if it's a train, chances are it will, that's going to divert additional financial resources from the traditional public school to other areas. I sat down today and tried to add up what these costs would be, because so far there is no staff analysis on this, but I'm very, very concerned what I have seen last night when it was sent out to me about this train and what it could do to us. Many of you have gone to Tallahassee with us, and we've gone and we have sent thousands and thousands and thousands of emails, and I have not sent Twitters, but a lot of our members and school employees have sent Twitters, and they have done visits with our legislators and staff members. And to have this happen the last week, going into the last week of session, we all know that that is usually what happens, but it's scary, especially considering all this big money we were supposed to get, and it's all being encumbered. So to each of you, thank you very much for everything you've done, and to your viewing audience, but we still got 1 week to go. We can't back down, and we just got to keep plugging away at it. I will be there next Tuesday during spring break at the City Council when our building of construction in schools will be presented again. And I hope this time that it goes through, because our students and our employees and our community deserve it, and it's time we get rocking and rolling. So to that, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ms. Brady, and happy birthday to you. Okay, any more employee organizations? Seeing none, approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
That the Duval County School Board approve the minutes for the meetings listed in the agenda item. They're rocking and rolling up here. December the 10th, 2019 board member meeting, Hershey and Anderson. January the 29th, 2020 policy handbook review meeting. January 31st, 2020 board workshop. February the 4th, 2020 regular board meeting. February the 7th, 2020 board workshop legislative. February the 18th, 2020 auditor selection committee. February the 21st, 2020 emergency board meeting. February the 24th, 2020 special board meeting litigation shade. Motion by board member Grimes, second by board member Hershey. Any discussion? If not, I call for your vote.
Did everybody get theirs? No, it's not just me. Okay, that makes me feel better. There you go.
I actually approve the agendas 7-0. Are there any items to be placed on the consent agenda or items for discussion? Okay. I ask for your vote. I call for a motion, brother.
So moved.
Motion by board member Grimes, second by board member Hershey. Any discussion? I call for your vote. action. You've approved 7-0. Consent agenda 7-0. Discussion agenda. Extension of dates for school attendance boundaries to waive School Board Policy 5.44, John Love and Long Branch Elementary Schools. Dr. Green, is that your recommendation?
Yes, I'm going to read it. Okay. That the School Board of Duval County, Florida waive Section 7 of School Board Policy 5.44, School Attendance Boundaries, to extend the date so that both the public hearing and the board's action occur no later than April 2020. This waiver would be effective only for any boundary changes for John Love and Long Branch Elementary Schools.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Board Member Hershey, second by Board Member Anderson. Discussion. Board Member Smith Juarez.
Thank you, Chairman. We've had extensive conversation as a board about the board policies that apply to attendance boundary changes. So I'll sort of go over those briefly this evening for the benefit of the public and to remind the board, but understanding that we've had quite a bit of conversation about the school board policies that govern these changes. I feel like we've had less conversation about the changes themselves. So school board policy 5.44, 8.51, and 2.25 are all in play as we have this discussion. 5.44 applies to the attendance boundaries of schools and requires that the board is notified in July of any of what, forgive me, I want to make sure that I get this correct, is notified by July, or excuse me, notified in July of potential changes for the upcoming school year. There then is a enrollment report that should come to the board by October the 1st of each school year. And in section 6 of the policy, it says that any potential need for a boundary change, this report shall also identify any schools which may need a boundary change pursuant to section 5 of this policy. I have not been able to locate where the enrollment report indicated any need for a change in this particular school year. We did receive an email from the superintendent on October 9th that had to do with the particular, not just John Love and Long Branch, but the other two schools that we'll discuss in a moment. And then the policy goes on to state that no later than November there should be a public hearing regarding any boundary changes, and not later than December the school board should vote on any recommendations. As I mentioned, these particular schools were mentioned in the master facilities plan, which really is more about school buildings than it is about attendance boundaries. And then we received notification on October 9th that the superintendent would like to entertain the possibility of a boundary change by this board. And I say all of this because I was part of the subcommittee that revised this policy to change the timing and to look at some of what we had learned from experience. Was important to notifying the community, to engaging the community, and to having school attendance boundaries that are good for the district and good for communities. And so I have been concerned and have raised this concern several times throughout this process that the timeline is problematic for whatever the recommendation may be and for the implementation of that. I'll speak specifically now to John Love and Long Branch Elementary because I do think that this one is a little bit different than the two that are to come. And in that, these two schools were K-5 schools and the
Ms.
board.
Smith, we're on the St. Clair Evans Carter G. Woodson one. No, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I turned
Yes,
the page.
I'm right.
You're right.
Okay, it was moving on. So the board created a K2 and a 3-5 in these schools just a couple of years ago. Since I've been on the board, I believe it was in 2016 was the implementation. So what we have learned since that decision, which was a difficult decision of the board, and we deliberated quite a bit over this particular change because of the distance between the schools, because of some of the roadways that exist between the schools, and understanding that families may have young children in both schools at the same time. And I think what we're hearing clearly from the community is that the health, safety, and welfare of these students, which is critical to waiving a board policy, is in fact a component of the change that is now being considered to revert and have a K-5 situation for students. And so with this particular waiver, I do feel like the threshold for a waiver of board policy, which appears in 2.25, which reads to provide the two barriers or kind of thresholds for waiver: to provide and implement overall goals and objectives of the school board, and to protect and preserve the health, safety, and welfare of affected individuals, in this case, namely students. That this particular item, for me, does bring into consideration the threshold of those two things. The one question that I do have through the chair to the superintendent is, I understand that the working group has concluded its work. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Ms. Smith-Flores, yes.
Okay. And so we have assurance that that this particular item will have a recommendation in April.
So, through the chair to Ms. Smith-Flores, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had on this particular item.
Thank you. I jumped ahead of you. Any other discussion on this particular item? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Board Vice Chair Anderson, second by Board Member Hershey. Discussion? If not, call for your vote. By action, you approve that item 7-0. Extension of dates for school attendance boundaries to waive School Board Policy 5.44, St. Clair Evans and Carter G. Woodson Elementary Schools. Madam Superintendent.
Mr. Chair, that the School Board of Duval County, Florida waive Section 7 of School Board Policy 5.44, School Attendance Boundaries, to extend the date so that both the public hearing and the board's action occur no later than April 2020. This waiver would be effective only for any boundary changes for St. Clair Evans and Carter G. Woodson Elementary Schools.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Hershey, second by Board Member Willie. Discussion? Smith-Flores.
Thank you. So I won't go back through the timeline again, other than to just emphasize that the policy does state that any school boundary changes should be voted on by the board no later than December. And this waiver would allow for a vote at a considerably later date than that. I do want to go into a little bit more detail now about why the board made changes to the timeline and changes to the policy following a number of school boundary changes that happened several years ago. And a lot of it has to do with the environment of choice that we are now in as a district, with the health, safety, and welfare of students, and with the ability of school staff and administrators to prepare for students coming in the fall. So in terms of school choice, we are a district of choice. We have many options for students, including neighborhood schools, which are chosen, magnet schools, which are chosen, sometimes charter schools that are chosen, or programs within a neighborhood school that may have a magnet or another entry theme, as well as special assignment. So if there are open seats at a school that someone has not applied or does not live within the boundary, there is an option to attend those schools as well. I will remind folks that the School Choice Expo is our primary way of getting the word out, and that happens in January of each year. Again, school boundary changes by policy happen by December, so that schools can exhibit themselves and families know what the options are when they go to that expo. My understanding through the chair to the superintendent is that all of these schools were represented at the expo. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Ms. Smith Flores, yes.
Okay. So we have schools that were represented at the expo, which may be recommended for closure. We don't know yet because we haven't gotten those recommendations. So you may have families who are thinking about choices that may be recommended to no longer be a choice. You have the magnet application deadline, which has come and gone, and that's at the end of February. So if families were assigned to a particular school and wanted to choose a dedicated magnet or a magnet school, that option is no longer available to them for the fall. In terms of special assignment, those have deadlines as well. There are a couple of them, but still it's likely that in terms of communicating and getting the word out and the board taking action, that those could be over and seats could be taken by the time those special assignments happen. You also have staff transfers and staff transfer dates to think about. If there are significant shifts in schools and where staff will go, it is in fairness not just to those affected schools, but also to schools throughout the district that may have openings or have teachers who may be looking to transfer to other schools or other school staff. There's also some real significant preparation for the following school year, so that a principal, assistant principal, school staff can begin building a school culture and understanding their particular programmatic aspects, aspects of school community that they want to build, and being able to implement those things on a timeline that that yields the best benefit for students is important. And it also goes beyond current students. So it goes beyond just those students who may be sitting in the seats. It speaks to community and neighborhood schools as a community asset, as something that has a gravitational pull within a community, and for children who may come up to go to those schools, or for alumni who may have been from those schools. And so the communication efforts in community are really important as we think about boundary changes and as we think about school reassignments. For example, North Shore, one of the schools that is under consideration for some type of boundary change, was actually built as a school that would house a lot more students as a K-8. And that was not a great fit for that school, which is now why we now find it as a K-5. And so thinking about all of those historical changes and the shifts that have happened, and making sure that the community has ample time to absorb some of the changes or some of the recommendations or not, and to have that feedback. And over the last several weeks, I have spent time talking with folks and asking them what they think about these proposed changes. Have they been involved in the conversations, that kind of thing. And most of what I've gotten is which schools, where, what, I'm not sure. I don't. So I'm concerned that with respect to the board members and the superintendent and those who have been involved in the meetings that have happened, that we haven't had as much public conversation and public awareness about what's happening at some of these schools, especially in light of the School Choice Expo and other opportunities. So when I think about, again, the threshold for a waiver, and I think about, and I'm going to lump the two items together for the sake of the board and time, but when I think about the changes at Lake Forest Elementary, Brentwood Elementary School, North Shore Elementary School, Carter G. Woodson, St. Clair Evans Elementary School, and a potential new elementary school at the site of Northwestern, I have a lot of pause about waiving board policy before we know what conclusions are, what implications are, what the potential transitions could be that we are asking of students and families, and where this is all headed. There will ultimately be school board discussion and vote on any recommendation that comes from the superintendent, but to waive board policy this late gives me concern. So I want to ask through the chair to the superintendent, what caused the delay between the October 9th email and the recommendations that will eventually come to the board?
Through the chair to Ms. Smith-Juarez and the entire board, when we reviewed what we had done, we actually felt like we really weren't violating after talking with staff and looking at, okay, we don't think the master's facilities plan is a suggestion. It is the plan. It was known and voted on that these schools would consolidate. And these consolidations are ones that could happen without the referendum. The other consolidations can't happen if we don't have funding to support those schools that would consolidate, and whether it's a new build or renovation, it just wouldn't support it. At that time, we also gave the board the enrollment study, which is for the next 10 years. And then I gave the board notification in October of why we were looking to do these 3 consolidations. One, the enrollment for Long Branch and John Love was so low that it was very challenging for us to even staff these 2 schools. And even when we put them together, the enrollment currently today would not hit 300 students. For St. Clair Evans and Carter G. Woodson, if you go back to when we did the boundary changes for Northwestern, it was actually, I hope I'm not wrong, but I believe it was actually in that agenda item that that school would convert to an elementary school. And we listed the 2 elementary schools that would converge into Northwestern. Brentwood probably is the only one. It was the one that we said, well, we have already moved Lake Forest. Lake Forest moved over to North Shore because of academics. It was the closure was based on academics, and that in the master's facilities plan, it was Brentwood, Lake Forest, both consolidating into North Shore. North Shore, did I say that right? Yeah, North Shore Elementary. So, recognizing that information, I did talk to you and said, well, I guess maybe I should send out a waiver. And then when we talk through it with staff, it says, no, the waiver comes towards at the end. And I said, oh, okay. And then you came back to me and I said, well, I'm just gonna have to apologize. I thought it was supposed to come at the end when we bring the final recommendation. We're asking for the waiver, but when I talked to you, I said, we brought it to the workshop, we talked about it, and then it was suggested, bring the waiver at this board meeting. So that is the timeline and the delay. And I believe at that workshop, I openly said, I apologize, I've obviously made a mistake, and this is how we are trying to make sure that we bring this before the board so that we can move forward.
Yes, and forgive me, I agree and appreciate that, you know, you've sort of acknowledged through this process that, right, you've done an incredible job coming on board, but everything is still a little, you know, some of these things are still a little bit new, and that was not what I was asking. I was more so.
Well, I was just, you asked what was the delay, and I was explaining the delay because we thought it needed to be at the end as we were going through this process.
So I guess not what I'm asking is the delay on the bringing the waiver to the board, but why has it taken from October until now, March, April, maybe even May, to bring a recommendation?
Through the chair to Ms. Board Member Smith Juarez, I think it's because we had some situations. We had dealing with the referendum, and we scheduled these meetings. We scheduled them in for December. Our first meeting, we met with, they had very well attended community meetings, just the first meeting. And based on that information, it seemed, okay, they're gonna need to meet. They have a lot of questions, and I can't attend those meetings. This is my first and only meeting that I will be attending until you bring it back through the community meeting. And we just felt we needed to give them that opportunity. We have communicated with all school communities about whether it was the school choice fair. We've actually met with the teachers back in December. They've been met with again to make sure that they get priority for any transfers that may occur if they decide, I don't want to, John Love and Long Branch, I don't want to be at Long Branch. So they will get priority in transferring to a different school. I have to say, Ms. Peak, Assistant Superintendent of School Choice, Mr. Paul Soares and his team, they have constant communication. The two board members these schools are in their district, I believe they've attended most of the meetings and have continued to work through making sure every question has been answered. Even though we're on St. Clair Evans and Carter G, in the one with Brentwood, the same information would apply to Brentwood for the next item that we're going to read off. So I don't know whether, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask either the board members want to chime in on, because they've been attending the meetings, I have not.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, I think I appreciate the sort of the letter of coming and making sure as a board we're not just waiving policy for any reason. I do think at this point, yes, there may have been some pieces at the beginning that didn't quite line up, but the communication since then, and as I've been in numerous meetings at several schools, because all three of these sort of touch my area, communication has been great. The HR staff has been there to talk to teachers. The choice folks have been there to talk to parents. Not even that, but even going to the school during the school day. In addition to that, like outside communication too, I don't think that piece right there is one. I know I've talked to pastors, we've talked to NAACP, like formally and informally. There's been so much communication that's happened. Of course, anytime you roll this out, there's going to be pockets of people who say, I don't know, I haven't heard that. But at this point, we've tried to really do a good job of spreading ourselves out and touching folks who touch multiple people. So Urban League, NAACP, pastors, all these folks, so they can actually get a sense of what we're trying to do. So I hear what we're saying, but also I think that with the context of the half penny, I think that pushed everything off because when we sat in those meetings for facilities, we sat and we said, I vividly remember the superintendent saying, this is the master facility plan, and say, what if we don't get the money? This stuff in here will still happen. And people are like, whoa. So then it made them think, and then now we're coming back to it, and it is happening. So in my opinion, I think this is something that we have to move, just because now we've knighted folks within our school communities to say, here's the recommendation, we want you to work through this. And I think to throw them off now, I think creates a different level of conversation that we have to now have to say, yeah, we told you this, but actually now we're going to, I don't know how we even do that, like pull it back from them and have them do it again. So I also think about the folks who we've now knighted and said, hey, we're giving it to you to make some of these decisions to then come back to us. So I just think we have to think about the whole piece and the context through it out. But I do appreciate, as we move, I don't think we should be doing this all the time. And this is a very interesting situation with the half penny, the context of it all. And each of those schools is, like you just mentioned, the Long Branch John Love, very different situation than the Northwestern piece, which we've been talking about for years with what's going on there. And then the Brentwood, very different than all three of those. So we have to take them all in context and separately, and that's why also we've divided them out to vote here.
Board Member Anderson. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. Through the chair, I wonder, Superintendent, if you might be able to provide a little bit more explanation about when Board Member Willie says we've knighted people. You know, who are these community groups that are coming together, and who is making these decisions or helping to provide input on these decisions for these communities and schools?
Through the chair to Vice Chair Anderson, there, I'm going to give the wrong policy number, but the policy, there's policy that dictates who should be on the ACE committees. And so the school principal has the requirement to vet and fulfill those placeholders, if you will. So there has to be someone from the community. There has to be someone representing the teachers. And so there's a list, and each of those groups have been vetted and have fulfilled their role. Now, I can't really talk because I haven't been, the policy also says I'm not to attend those meetings, so I don't attend those meetings. But we do have Assistant Superintendent Miss Peak. I know she was like, "Don't come on." I'm gonna sit here quietly, but she can further, if you want more information, she can give you more information about those meetings.
I just think it's important to keep in mind that there was a lot of policy that was followed, and we have engaged the community. And as we talked about this in workshop, it sounds like these decisions and these conversations are pretty far along, and it's not something that's going to be disruptive or confusing. Ms. Peak shared with us the efforts that the Office of School Choice has made to go really above and beyond to engage family members, students, staff, in what these options are and what the decisions will be. So I think based on those conversations that we've had, I agree that certainly board policy is important, and it's unfortunate that we are kind of in this position where we're pinched here, but like Board Member Willie, I felt like I knew this was coming during facilities conversations, so I feel comfortable supporting the recommendation at this time.
I feel comfortable supporting the recommendation. Having said that, I do know that we followed the board policy. We didn't do it in a timely manner as outlined in board policy. And I think that's where I share your concern, that we did not follow the timeline. But every step that was outlined in board policy is being followed. It just wasn't completed by November with a recommendation in December. It will be completed, I guess, in March with a recommendation in April. So we're 4 months off. But going forward, I certainly share your concerns, and that the last time I think what prompted this was the board meeting where we added Atlantic Coast, and they were here till 1 o'clock in the morning because there's so many irate parents here in these chambers. I don't want to be here till 1 o'clock in the morning again. I wasn't here then, but I think you and that was before my.
Atlantic Coast was pre-us, but we had a few. That
Okay,
were, yes.
yeah. So I understand the need for the policy, and I understand the need to follow the policy into its completion. And I hope that in the future we won't have this issue. And I think the work, I've attended several of the working session ACE groups. they've been very engaged. They've been informed. Ms. Peak and her staff have done a very good job of making sure they follow the intent and letter of the policy, and they've come out with some very good recommendations. Some surprising recommendations, I think, that you will see that the superintendent will get. So I'm supportive of it, and going forward, once we get the sales tax on the ballot, we're going to make sure that we follow the letter and intent of this board policy. So you can't sit out, come back and say, I told you so. Okay. Thank you very much.
You'll get me for 3 minutes.
I had Seth Morales and then Board Member Willie.
So I did want to make note of one other thing, Superintendent, that you mentioned during your comments, and Board Member Willie as well. I think that as we have had conversation about the master facilities plan in each of our individual districts, there may be a very different understanding of what that plan represents, and what the ensuing action of the board may or may not be as a result of a plan, not a slated board action. And so in District 3, where we have a school consolidation, a couple of school consolidations that are in that plan, as well as a school transformation that is in that plan, the conversation at community meetings and otherwise has been, yes, this is in the plan, but there is board policy that governs boundary changes. And so nothing that is in this plan is predetermined, will happen whether or not there is additional revenue, board action, whatever the case is. It has always been, this is what we see from the numbers. This is what we see from the enrollment study, from what we've been able to do as a first pass. But it may be that when the ACE committee meets, that they feel like there is a better redistribution of students, that they feel like the attendance boundaries may need to be drawn slightly differently. I get many calls from some of those Atlantic Coast boundary changes still, because everything east of St. John's Bluff is zoned to Inglewood when they can almost see Sandalwood from their front yard. And I understand there was a comprehensive process that went into why those boundaries are what they are. And there were, I think it was a year of ACE meetings to make those boundaries what they are. And so I've always reinforced to those constituents as well that there's policy that governs that. There are ways that that's brought up by the board. There is the special assignment option if there are seats available, those types of things. But I just want to be careful as a board member who won't be here probably when some of those discussions happen for District 3, that the master facilities plan is a facilities plan. School boundaries and school assignment is something that is governed separately by board policy. And so with every respect to the members of the ACE committee, to the pastors, the NAACP, those have been involved in the conversation, the board members themselves and staff who have spent, I know, a lot of time on these. I do think that the communication has been maybe isolated to those groups and not as widespread throughout to those groups who may represent particular schools or particular interests, and not as widespread as we may hear from folks next fall or otherwise once these changes have happened. So that's my concern. That's why the policy states what it does. And in terms of could we or could we not have done this with more time, I understand that maybe there were some extenuating circumstances, but I have a lot of reservation with the waiver of policy. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
One last thing through the chair. I'll say I think it's always interesting. Timing is there's never a perfect time to have these conversations, because I also think about if you wait a year and you're having a conversation, we already have dwindling population in the schools, then you have even less, and you run into that. And I think the piece around communication to the masses, I think, is something we need to always focus on. And I think Chair Jones mentioned this when we were having conversations around how do we not just talk to the parents and folks who are connected, but also constituents, voters, and other people. And that's something I don't know. We don't necessarily have that in policy, but I think to your point, to make sure like we're not just focused on pockets, but spreading a wider net, we can do something there. So I think whether it's creating policy around that or just being more intentional and cognizant of it, I think that's a really good point.
We have a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Anything else? Call for your vote.
Sorry, my computer was asleep. Did you vote?
I actually approved that item 6-1. Extension of dates for school attendance boundaries to waive school board policy 5.44, Brentwood and North Shore Elementary Schools. Dr. Green.
That the School Board of Duval County, Florida waive the Section 7 of School Board Policy 5.44, school attendance boundaries to extend the date so that both the public hearing and the board's action occur no later than April 2020. This waiver would be effective only for boundary changes for Brentwood and North Shore Elementary Schools.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson, second by Board Member Hershey. Discussion.
All the same apply.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, call for your vote. By action, you approve that item 6-1. Public hearing and vote. Adoption of district-wide world languages and career technical educational textbooks. Dr. Green.
Mr. Chairman, that the Duval County School Board approve the adoption and purchase of the following foreign language and career and technical education instructional materials. Jose A. Serendinros Blanco, I'm messing. Number 1, Vista Higher Learning, first edition, 2018 for Spanish 1. Jose Senderos Blanco 2, Vista Higher Learning, first edition, 2018 for Spanish 2. Jose A. Senderos Blanco 3, Vista Higher Learning, first edition, 2018 for Spanish 3. Herrera, Camden, Espanol, oh gosh, and Vincenzo, Carnegie, somebody should
Ashley can get it.
Learning Incorporated, DBA, EMC Publishing, and Mundo Ed, first edition, 2017 for Spanish 4 honors. Jose A. Diacord Blanco, number 1, Vista Higher Learning, third edition, 2019 for French 1. Jose A. Diacord Blanco, number 2, Vista Higher Learning, third edition, 2019 for French 2. Number 7, Burton Agri-Science Fundamentals and Applications Updated, Precision Exam Edition, 6th edition, 2019 for Agri-Technology 1. Number 8, Gaines Miller Criminal Justice in Action, 10th edition, 2019 for Criminal Justice Operations 1. Number 9, Baker Lawhead, Introductions to Veterinary Science, 3rd edition, 2017 for Veterinary Assisting 1.
Public hearing is now open on that item. Anyone here to speak to that item? Seeing none, is there anyone to close the public hearing Ask for your motion.
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Hershey, second by Vice Chair Anderson. Any discussion? None, I call for your vote. Glad I have to read those names. By your action, you adopted item 7-0. Public hearing and vote revisions to Chapter 5 Board Policies.
Mr. Chairman, that the Duval County School Board conduct a public hearing and adopt the recommended revisions to the following policies in School Board Manual, Chapter 5. Number 1, Policy 5.40, Student Attendance Requirements. Number 2, Policy 5.42, District Student Attendance Provisions.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open on that item. Anyone here to speak to it? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed.
Approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson.
Second.
Second by Board Member Hershey. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call for your vote. By your action, we approve that item 7-0. Public hearing and vote revisions to Chapter 10 Board Policies. Dr. Green.
That the Duval County School Board conduct a public hearing and adopt the recommended revisions to the following policies in School Board Manual, Chapter 10. Number 1, Policy 10.10, Prohibiting Discrimination and Harassment. Number 2, Policy 10.20, Anti-Bullying Policy.
Public hearing is now open on that item. Anyone here to speak to that item? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson, second by Board Member Hershey. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call for your vote. By your action, you adopted item 7-0. Public hearing and vote revisions to Chapter 8 Board Policies. Dr. Green.
That the Duval County School Board conduct a public hearing and approve the recommended adoption of the following policies in School Board Manual, Chapter 8. Policy 8.97, Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence.
Public hearing is now open. Seeing anyone here to speak to that item? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed.
Approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson.
Second.
Second by Board Member Hershey. Any discussion? Board Member Hershey, Ashley Smith Juarez.
Well, Board Member Hershey may want to speak first, but I just wanted to thank her for her advocacy on this issue and for bringing this particular policy forward. I think it's an important one for this board to acknowledge and for this district to be vigilant about. So thank you for your leadership.
One thing that I think is neat about this particular policy is that there's a concern in our city over this issue, and it is nice when we can align and agree and make have a collaborative effort to address an issue. You know, you like to be on the map, but for some things you don't want to be on the map, and this is one of the things we're on the map for. So I think that it is a good stand for the board, and again, I think it just reinforces what the city is doing and what leadership in the city is seeking to do. So I just wanted to point out it's kind of nice to be in step with those on the other side of the river from time to time. And this is one of those areas.
Hopefully we'll have another one soon.
Yes, hopefully so.
All right, anyone else? If not, I call for your vote. I ask you to approve that item 7-0. Approval of the agreement with Curriculum Associates LLC for educational and professional development. Dr. Green.
Number 1, that the Duval County School Board approve an agreement with Curriculum Associates LLC for educational and professional development services in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for the period commencing March 4th, 2020 through May 22nd, 2020. Number 2, that the Duval County School Board authorize the chairman or vice chairman and the superintendent to execute the agreement contingent upon form approval by the Office of General Counsel.
Move approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson, second by Board Member Willis. Any discussion? Vice Chair Anderson.
Through the chair, Dr. Green, I know this applies to kind of both agenda items, but for the record, can you let us know why these items are coming to us as an emergency item?
These items are coming for the schools identified in the board agenda. Their funding, we're on a timeline for them to spend the remaining funding. Positions didn't get filled, so now they have additional money. This is an opportunity for them to contract directly with Curriculum Associates to provide support to their school between now and the end of the year.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I call for your vote. I ask you adopted that item 7-0. Approval of the amendment of the agreement with Educational Development Associates, Inc. for professional development. Dr. Green.
Number 1, that the Duval County School Board approve an amendment to the agreement with Educational Development Associates Incorporated to increase the agreement amount from $871,750 to $990,000 for the period of March 3rd through June 30th, 2020. Number 2, that the Duval County School Board authorize the chairman or vice chairman and the superintendent to execute the amended contingent upon the form approval by the Office of General Counsel.
Move approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson.
Second.
Second.
Somebody else might want to second it, so I was waiting.
Second for Board Member Grimes. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for your vote. Action adopted item 7-0. Board member travel. Everybody's afraid to travel because of superintendent travel. That the Duval County School Board approved the following superintendent travel. March 5, 2020, Orlando, Florida, Dr. Brian Dashler. Leadership Academy closing ceremony. March 18, 2020, Orlando, Lift Jack's visit to Lift Orlando.
Move approval.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson. Second by Board Member Grimes. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call for your vote. Oh.
Just only because we spoke so much about travel earlier in the meeting, I just want to give the superintendent very quick question. I'm sure it does, but this complies with all of our protocols regarding infectious disease, correct?
Through the board chair to Ms. Meforez, yes.
Thank you.
There won't be 1,000 people at either one of those events.
And she's not going to Disney?
Yes, and I'm not going to Disney. And I'm driving in a car.
Okay. Seeing none, call for your vote. I actually adopted the board superintendent travel 7-0. For the record, we'll start with Board Vice Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. I wanted to say a couple thank yous. I wanted to thank Mayor Glasser from Atlantic Beach for opening up a town hall and offering the opportunity for me to speak with the Atlantic Beach community. I also want to a big thanks to the staff that were able to come and support me at that meeting. It's always great to connect with the constituency. It's so interesting. The beaches communities have little local governments that are so close to them, you know, with their commissioners and their council people and their mayors just down the street and easily accessible. It's a different level of engagement, and it's so refreshing sometimes to be welcomed into these communities and the interest that they show in public education. So I appreciate that. So thank you to Atlantic Beach. I wanted to say thank you to the JPEF board and staff for hosting and inviting us in again to have a joint board meeting. I will say that the vibe this year was just a little different, and I'm excited about the opportunity for collaboration and the work that's been progressing with them. I'm grateful to former board chair Hershey for pulling us together last year, and the work that Superintendent Green and Rachel Tutwiler Fortune are doing to keep our programs aligned and moving in the same direction. I think that's going to really lead to some great outcomes for children. I was able to attend the Construction Career Days event. Board Member Hershey is talking about them, talks about it all the time, and I remember last year said, you know, you guys have to go check it out. So I went on the day that my Fletcher kids would be there, got to run into them and take a little selfie. It was very interesting. I'm excited about the opportunity, especially as we hear tonight from Mr. Stovall and from our other staff members. These career options are wonderful options, and in the construction field, there's such a variety of degrees and certifications and opportunities at all levels. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to share that with our students, and I appreciate the Department of Transportation and the folks with the Construction Career Days organization for putting that on. I think they said 7 counties participate here in Northeast Florida, which I thought was impressive as well. I wanted to say great job to Board Member Willie. I went to the TEDx Youth Conference today. Our students are amazing. We have a bright future ahead of us. These young people are brilliant. They speak truth to power in such fantastic ways, and the ever charismatic Board Member Willie did an awesome job today. But I want to thank that organization for inviting our students in, and for the inaugural, I hope, to continue. Event was very moving and inspirational, so thanks to those folks for letting our kids have that stage. Let's see, the City Council public hearing. I know that we are still in litigation mode, and so we will not be speaking on the item, but I do want to invite folks out. It's spring break. I get it, we'll be busy, but please feel free to come out and voice your opinion about the half-cent sales tax referendum, and being able to move that item to a ballot in November 2020. The public hearing will be on Tuesday, March 10th, and those meetings often start at 5 p.m. but can last late into the night. So make sure you have your snacks and come ready for the long haul. Let's see, finally, I have a chat with the superintendent scheduled in March, and I'm excited about the work that we are doing, some strategic planning that I hope to be able to give an update on, legislative session that will be over by then that I hope we'll be able to give any updates on. But I want to invite everyone out March 24th to Kernan Middle School. I'll be across the ditch for those of you that are townies. Please come out and join us. I'm looking forward to that meeting with the superintendent. Thank you so much for coming out, Superintendent Green. Have a wonderful spring break.
Thank you. Board Member Hershey.
I always sit here like I'm in school, you know, and you're going, don't call, you know, the teacher calls on you. I had a chat with the superintendent in February at Loretto Elementary. Dr. Green was there. We had a good turnout. It's always interesting to me, having had one previously in January for people in the Twin Lakes Elementary, Middle School, and Atlantic Coast. that conversation was different than the conversation at Loretto Elementary. So that was a worthwhile conversation, always very insightful. I'm always curious as to what's important to people, and you get to hear that. And sometimes different districts represent, different needs or different concerns. I was going to mention construction, the career construction days. It is absolutely fascinating. I am always amazed at the chemistry behind asphalt and the engineering in bridges. And I don't know if Vice Chair Anderson had a chance to drive any of the heavy machinery, but that's always my favorite part of the entire event. But it's really neat because when you hear students say, I can do this, and I can make how much an hour, so it's really neat when they can see that it's something they can do. And then it motivates, I think, some students for graduation to get that high school diploma so they can follow through. I just applaud the district and Dr. Green for continuing to expand those opportunities. I think every year we add more high schools that participate, exposing more high school students to that, and I think it's a great opportunity. So thank you, Dr. Green. I had a great opportunity in February to participate. It was at Wolfson High School in the naturalization ceremony. I didn't participate, I just stood on the stage, but it was neat to be a part of that and to see the excitement. And I think that there were about 18 or 30 countries, I forget the number, but there were a lot of people coming who had made the commitment to be an American citizen, and they were so excited, and that was really neat to see. There is going to be a culinary clash on March 17th between 4 and 6 at Twin Lakes Academy Elementary. I invite everyone out for that. I hope everyone has a great spring break and stays healthy and well.
Thank you. Board Member Grimes.
Happy spring break for everyone. That's all.
Thank you. Board Member Willie.
A couple of quick things. Number one, we are the champions is what the APR folks who competed in a forensic science competition.
I didn't mention that.
Board Member Hershey did not mention that because we are the champions, APR, and it was an awesome time. We talked about choices for our students. They got to be forensic specialists, and the state attorney's office actually had them try a case, and they brought them in to actually be on the stand and be forensic specialists, and they competed. It was a competition. It's fantastic to see. Students were amazing. I just did jury duty, y'all remember, and I had a forensic scientist up there, and I was like, our students could easily do it, and they showed me that they could. So congratulations to the folks at APR and all the students who participated in that event. Andrew Jackson going to the semifinals in basketball. I think tomorrow they'll be competing in the semifinals. So once again, they're down in Lakeland. So congratulations to them. TEDx Jacksonville was an amazing opportunity to see our students' voices come to life and giving our students a platform. So those videos will be on YouTube and other places. So when that happens, we'll make sure we share those widely. Last, it was a glorious sight to see the JAGS students here and hear from them today. I think that's something I'm so glad that they were here. I'm so glad we get to hear their voices. And it was so serendipitous that students that spoke before them said, hey, we need more student voices. And then we're like, wait, we got you. So I think that's really important. I think we've been asking about that too. And then lastly, have a great spring break and enjoy time and relax if you can and will with your families.
All right, thank you. Board Member Smith-Morez.
Thank you. I want to again congratulate our district-wide from District 3 Spelling Bee champ. This is 2 years running that District 3 has had the district-wide Spelling Bee champ, and so I've already recruited Julius to be the tutor for next year's District 3 participants. Really proud of him. He did make it 5 rounds through the state competition and has just been a really tremendous ambassador for Duval County and for the DuPont Dragons. Was at a assembly today with him and so many of his dual language cohort students, and to see how much they supported him and how excited they were for his accomplishment was also really tremendous and spoke to what a great citizen he is in his school. Also, similar to Board Member Anderson, I'm going to say it's spring break, so you don't have much else to do. So why not go to the city council meeting on Tuesday, March 10th, and make your voice known and represent your thoughts and opinions on the half-penny sales tax and allowing for enhanced facilities across our schools. And that leads to state legislation and some things that are going on in the state legislature. You heard a little bit earlier. It is always quick in Tallahassee, but this is the time when things really start flying. And so very important as we get bill analysis on this consolidated bill that has come out. We'll certainly be communicating that. There is still yet to be seen what will happen with the language around mandating that districts who pass a half-penny sales tax will have to share per capita with charter schools. And as you know, those of you who have been following this board has always been open to sharing with charter schools, but to have a locally voted, locally collected, locally earned tax that has a state legislature that then supersedes that local control to say, here's how you have to spend a portion of it, to me is not in the interest of Republican, small or big, our government. And I would really encourage folks to stay informed about what's going on with that charter sharing rule, and to think about whether it makes sense for the state to make a rule across the state about what should happen with locally voted, locally collected, locally earned tax dollars. And when I say earned, I mean by the taxpayer. So please, pay attention, stay on top of that. I also was really excited to be a part of the first annual Youth TEDx today. I think everybody who was there really had a tremendous time and enjoyed it. I was hanging out in the solutions corner for most of the time, where students were able to come by and offer their ideas about what could change over a variety of issues. And there were a lot of things that they had to say, and a number of things that were really important. But one in particular that I want to talk about that stuck out to me under the educational equity category was there was a note around having more diverse representation in curriculum and textbooks. Was a specific solution that was identified by a student around educational equity, and there were a couple of additional post-its that were pointing to it saying, yes, me too, I think so too. And in follow-up to what we heard coming out of recommendations from the governor's office to the State Board of Education regarding the new standards and the best reading list, I thought it important to share with the community, and I'm not sure if IT was able to put this together or not, but no, thank you. First, looking at the gender of the authors that are part of that recommended reading list. 62% male, 37% female when we think about students who are in our school and wanting more diverse representation in curriculum and textbooks. And then when we look at the race and ethnicity of the authors, 79% of the authors on this reading list are white, 11% Black, 3% Hispanic, 4% are unknown, and then we have one or less than 1% coming from some of the other categories that we looked into. And so I think it's really important that as we think about literacy, and as we think about relevance, and as we think about where we're headed as a state, and as a local community with education for our students, this to me deserves a lot of conversation, because it doesn't reflect what I heard from students today, and it doesn't reflect our community. So I would encourage you also to stay informed and keep up with. There will be a long process for vetting these standards and for the state board considering what the standards moving forward may be. So please stay engaged in that process as well, because those standards then translate to what's in front of our students. And with that, I will quote what we heard from one of our students from Parkwood Heights at the top of the meeting, which I really loved. Over spring break, I would encourage you to get caught being good, because good things come of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Anderson. Joyce.
Thank you so much. I just have a couple quick things. I know everybody's ready to go. I'm right now in the middle of visiting my schools, meeting with teachers and principals and doing tours. I'm excited about this because we as a board move into our strategic plan, I'm getting a lot of feedback from what do you need locally, what do you need at that school level, and so I'm happy to be having those conversations and meeting with those people. I also got to go to Career Days and Construction Day, and that's important to me also as we relate that to the strategic plan, because I believe that, you know, the outcry in the community is more CTE education, and so I'm excited to see where that goes. I want to thank Dr. Green for working with the Fed Bar Association and Judge Howard and Judge Corrigan and Judge Davis to get that naturalization ceremony in our public school. It was the first one that we've ever done in a public school system. I think it was a great civic lesson for those students, and I hope that in the future we can have more of that. And then finally, I want to congratulate my Baldwin cheerleaders for their national and state championship. My youngest son is a student at Baldwin. He plays on the football team, so I watched them perform every single week last season. They were so good. They do such a tremendous job. They work really hard. But what I want to say is that when I watched them interact with the other cheerleaders on the other team and with the people around them, they were always so inviting and welcoming and such a good representation of Duval County Public Schools. And so I just want to give them a shout out, and with that say happy spring break and good night.
Board Member Anderson. Anything else? Is there a motion?
You don't have anything for the record?
Yeah, no.
Well, for the record, had a wonderful time at the pinning ceremony at elementary school. Which one was it? No.
Going on, it's so.
Cedar Hills Elementary School. And it was a grant given by the JPEL board, and she wanted to change the climate and culture of her community, of her school. And the kids did a great job. The 5th and 4th graders in their uniforms and their jackets and their red ties, they really stood out and they really were excited. So that was one of the highlights of this last month, other than meeting with attorneys. So, that's my report.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Vice Chair Anderson, second by Board Member Smith Juarez. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.